We have some key matchups coming up this Friday night, including a few teams starting region play. We'll also have a look back at a couple of key wins from local teams from last Friday, along with some highlights of Model's big win over Christian Heritage. All this coming up now on Gridiron Central.
Georgia Northwestern Technical College wants to help put you to work. Our programs in business, health, industrial, and public service will train you for the jobs available today. GNTC offers schedules in day, evening, and online classes at 5 campus locations with financial aid options too. You are sure to find a career path that works for you with our variety of degrees, diplomas, and certificates available. Visit us in person or on the web at gntc.edu. Georgia Northwestern Technical College, your career begins here.
Last week we had some very intriguing games. We'll get to the model game in just a minute. First off, Calhoun absolutely waxes Carrollton at home. This was a game where I predicted the Yellow Jackets were going to lose by a couple of touchdowns. Guess what? I was dead wrong. Big surprise, Calhoun fans. You always like me to pick against you. I won't be picking against you again until possibly the playoffs. Look, Calhoun steamrolled Carrollton. I'm not going to say Calhoun's going to go undefeated this season, at least in the regular season, but right now they look like they are definitely the team to beat in Region 6 AAA. Of course, Region 6 AAA gets started playing this week with a huge game we'll talk about later on in the show. Sonoraville rallies to get a win against, actually doesn't. Sonoraville beats Rockmart. Phoenix get a big win there. Sonoraville looks pretty good. They will be starting Region 6 AAA play this week as well. Armurchie goes up and gets their win last week against Coahulla Creek. Great first win there. The Indians could possibly eke out a second win this week. We'll talk about that later in the show. And of course, over at Model, the Blue Devils start 3-0 for the first time since the late 90s. It was also Gordon Power's 150th victory as the Blue Devils got the win over Christian Heritage. We were there on the sidelines for it. Videographer Jackson Witzel captured these highlights.
Georgia Northwestern Technical College wants to help put you to work. Our programs in business, health, industrial, and public service will train you for the jobs available today. GNTC offers schedules in day, evening, and online classes at 5 campus locations with financial aid options too. You are sure to find a career path that works for you with our variety of degrees, diplomas, and certificates available. Visit us in person or on the web at gntc.edu. Georgia Northwestern Technical College, your career begins here.
Welcome back to the show. As always, we would like to thank Georgia Northwestern Technical College for helping bring Gridiron Central to you for the last 8 years. This Friday, we have a whole slew of games, and of course, I would be remiss right now to mention that, guess what? Matt Davis was not able to make it back this week. He promises me he will be here next week, so unfortunately, you're stuck with me again. I don't know whether that's good or bad. We'll wait and see. Starting off, Armuchee travels to Fannin County. Look, the Indians got a win last week. Fannin County got a win last week. These are both teams looking for that second win. Both have new head coaches this season. If Armuchee can take that momentum from last week, not go way too high because they got the win, but keep it level, keep it playing solid, and not make mistakes, the Indians can very easily grab a second straight win. I'm actually going to go out on the limb. I picked against Armuchee last week. Again, I was wrong. I'm going to go with the Indians this week. I say they're going to eke out a win against Fannin County. Coosa at Rockmart. The Eagles have started the season 0-2 against higher classification foes. Rockmart 1-1 on the season. They lost last week to Sonoraville. Last year, this was a classic overtime game. Rockmart came back to win. This year, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think I picked them last week, or again, I was wrong in that pick. I think Coosa is going to be a little too much for Rockmart. I think Rockmart is getting better each game. Coosa's 0-2 record, don't let that fool you. They had 5 turnovers in the first game, had a couple of miscues last week in the third quarter that led to 21 points. Coosa's got to get everything straight. If they do, they get this win. I say they will. Kings Ridge at Darlington. The Tigers 1-1 on the season, had last week off after handling Bremen the week before. Unless Darlington puts the ball on the turf a lot, I think the Tigers end up winning this game. Trey Edge had a great game against Bremen. Darlington's defense is stout. Running game's very good. I think they're going to be too much for Kings Ridge and will pull away in the second half. Chattooga at Fellowship Christian. You know, again, a very difficult game to judge here. Chattooga's 0-2 on the season. I am going to go with Chattooga in this game. I think they can outscore Fellowship Christian. Cedartown at Bowden. The Bulldogs 0-2 on the season. Bowden is 1-1. Again, it's a tough toss-up here. You know, Bowden was a good team in AA last year. Cedartown obviously was a good team in 4A last year. They've had a couple of tough losses so far, but I'm going to say the Bulldogs get on the winning side. They beat Bowden this week. Unity Christian at New Creation. I believe it's Christian Academy. Unity had a tough game last week. Second half, they played a lot better. I think Unity is going to get better, but again, this is going to be a tough game for them. I say Unity loses on the road. After these commercial messages, we'll have the rest of Friday night's games. Stick around.
Georgia Northwestern Technical College wants to help put you to work. Our programs in business, health, industrial, and public service will train you for the jobs available today. GNTC offers schedules in day, evening, and online classes at 5 campus locations with financial aid options too. You are sure to find a career path that works for you with our variety of degrees, diplomas, and certificates available. Visit us in person or on the web at gntc.edu. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your career begins here.
Welcome back to the show. As always, we'd like to thank Georgia Northwestern Technical College, our main sponsor for Gridiron Central this season. Moving on to more games. Model at Bremen. The Blue Devils 3-0 for the first time since the late 90s. Are looking to go 4-0 for the first time since the, I believe, either the early 80s or the late 70s. I believe actually it was 1981. I'd have to check that again. Look, Model, I've said this already, the key to Model season is the offense. If the offense can score more than 24 points a game, the Blue Devils are going to be in every game and have a good chance to win them because their defense is stout. The other thing about Model's defense is do not throw the ball up for grabs against those defensive backs. 4 interceptions last week. They are very good at intercepting the ball. Also, if you try to run against the Milligan, watch out. Dax Bishop will come in and absolutely crush you. He is an amazing player defensively. You know, Model's offense, Watkins at tailback, seems to be getting stronger and stronger. Look, Bremen is not going to be a pushover. This is going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a tough game at Bremen. I'm going to say Model's going to win. They may have to win it in the fourth quarter like they did the first 2 games, but I do believe the Blue Devils moved to 4-0 for the first time in quite a long time. Chastity at Pepperell. Look, Pepperell started the season 0-2 against a couple of good opponents. Chastity, I believe they're also, you know, I'm going to go with Pepperell on this one. I just think that Pepperell is due. I think the offense is going to get better. I think the defense is going to get better. I just look at this game, and I think the Dragons are going to put it together this week and get that first win of the season. Ringgold at Adairsville. In all honesty, this is probably the premier game in Northwest Georgia this weekend. You have Ringgold, who's undefeated, 2-0, ranked number 4 in Class AAA. You have Adairsville, who's 2-0, getting votes in Class AAA in the Georgia Sports Writers Association poll. Both of them in Region 6 AAA. The winner of this game has an inside track for the number 2 position, possibly the number 1 position, if they can beat Calhoun later in the season. The biggest problem I see in this game is Adairsville's defense over the past couple of years hasn't exactly been stout. They've allowed a lot of points. I think against this Ringgold team, that's going to come back to bite them in the rear end. I think Ringgold, although it's at Adairsville, I believe the Ringgold Tigers, the Ballot Tigers here, I believe the Ringgold Tigers end up getting the win, but I do believe the game is going to be close. Cambridge at Rome. I actually went down to Covington to cover the Rome-Newton game last Saturday. Teams got on the field. Rome lost the coin toss, and next thing you know, lightning hit. An hour and a half later, the game was delayed. It has now been canceled. Rome will not make that game up. They have not played since the opening week against Villa Rica. Against Cambridge, you know, this is a Region 7 5A crossover game. It doesn't count the regular region standings, but if there are ties, it will be used for a tiebreaker late in the season as far as the region goes. The way I look, if Rome can knock the rust off, the Wolves should win this game. I believe they've had a lot of time to practice, a lot of time to correct mistakes. I don't like the fact they haven't played a game in a few weeks, but I'm going to go with Rome at Barron Stadium in this game. Calhoun at Gordon Central. Gordon Central on a 13-game losing streak. Calhoun absolutely crushed Carrollton last week. Region 6 AAA opener for both teams. Nothing against Gordon Central, but Calhoun rolls in this one. Sonoraville at North Murray. Very interesting game. I think two fairly evenly matched teams. I think this is an important game in Region 6 AAA because both of these teams could be borderline playoffs when the season ends. The winner of this game has an inside track for possibly the number 4 or the number 3 seed in Region 6 AAA. So it's a big game. Last year, I believe Sonoraville won this game 38-35. Look for another close contest. It's at North Murray, but I'm going to go with the Phoenix. One final game to talk about, Tryon at Lafayette. Tryon is 2-0 on the season with wins over Gordon Lee and Armurchie. Lafayette 2-0 on the season with wins over Gordon Central and Gordon Lee. Lafayette's a Class 4A team. Tryon is a Class A team. Tryon in this week's Class A Public School Power Polls ranked number 3 in football. A win over Lafayette this week would be huge for the Bulldogs because it puts them in phenomenal position as far as the power ratings go. And, of course, in Class A, that's how they determine the seeding for the playoffs, those power ratings. Lafayette, obviously, they want to start 3-0. They want to beat their Highway 27 rival, Tryon, in this game. I'm going to go with Tryon in the wing T offense. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be an interesting game. But I do believe the Bulldogs are going to get the win. And that's a wrap for Gridiron Central for this week. Remember to come back Friday night, live scoring updates from our games later in the evening. Photos, videos, articles from all the games, the best coverage in Northwest Georgia. From Matt Davis and Jackson Witzel, I'm Jim Allred saying we'll see you on the sideline.